Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is the Weekly Hero, the show where we sit around here and we talk about and recap all the stuff that has gone on in the world of comic book movies, a little bit of television, but most of the season, mid-season finales have happened. Recapping and revisiting after we've had a chance to sit down and think through and mull over all the things going on in the world of comic book movies. And obviously, this week was a significant one. This will be a day long remembered in the world of comic book movies because this was the week that it happened. Disney has purchased a whole ton of the assets from Fox, which include X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and even more. And a lot of the repercussions and things and the fallout are still happening from all of that. We're going to talk about those things here today. We're going to run over a lot of the stuff that's going on here. And I mean, again, this whole deal with Disney and Fox, I mean, this has been something that everybody has been talking about. It seems now for weeks and weeks and weeks, ever since the first rumors came out. And then, of course, Thursday, the real thing happened. The deal went through. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. Now, there are still some aspects of the deal that have to clear government approval. Of course, whenever you get a deal this size, it has to. But nobody is really foreseeing any kind of problems at this point. Nobody seems to be thinking that they're going to have like kind of any sort of hiccups or any sort of major snags that come up. The only thing that might have a bit of a major snag in it, of course, is the whole deal with Hulu. Because now they are out of nowhere, they're a majority shareholder when the other owners were not anticipating a single majority shareholder. Hulu could become an issue for these guys, but we don't know yet at this point. So, whole lot of stuff to talk about, and this is what we're going to do. I've got a couple of issues here in the world of comic book movies to address. Once we get through those, for the first half of the show, we're going to go to live questions on the second half of the show. Of course, there's always two ways you can get a live question on. First of all, using Super Chat, and if there's more time after that, then I'm going to go to Twitter as well. So, with that stuff out of the way, let's get into the first thing here, which is, of course, the 20th Century Fox deal has happened. Now, of course, what a lot of us have always said is when asking, hey, you think Disney could get the X-Men back? No. No, Fox, that's a money generator for Fox. Fox is not going to let the X-Men go. No chance. Especially when they've been on such a hot streak. 4 of their last 5 films have been amazing. First Class, Days of Future Past, Logan, Deadpool, and then there was that Apocalypse movie that didn't work out so well. But 4 out of the last 5 killed it. No way Fox ever sells off the X-Men. Well, okay. How about Fox just sells Fox? What if Fox just sells their whole movie division? How about that? Well, yeah, then that could happen, and obviously that is what happened. Fox decided they wanted to change their business. They wanted to become primarily business news and sports, selling off a lot of their television production, selling off almost all their movie assets, all that kind of stuff, just because they wanted to change what kind of a company. Now, I still maintain that if Fox was still going to be in the movie-making business, they never would have let the X-Men go. No chance. But this is a horse of a different color, isn't it? And that has happened, and now the repercussions, people are talking about it all over the place, have been fast and furious. People, like, seeing, first of all, you're seeing 2 different kinds of extreme reactions. Extreme reaction number 1 is joy. People can't wait to see the X-Men in the MCU. People can't wait to see a properly done Fantastic Four movie. People are excited about the idea of seeing Deadpool intermingling with the Avengers. Lots of excitement. The other big reaction we've been seeing from people, and I kind of fall more into this one, is some apprehension. Because while I am excited about all that other stuff, I mean, Wolverine fighting Hulk, come on, how great would that be? Well, I would be really excited. I am excited for that stuff. I still fall on the side that I'm a little pessimistic and a little bit cautious. Because, as I said, Fox has been killing it with their comic book movies lately. 4 of the last 5 have been stellar. Big, like, box office success, big critic reviews, big audience response. Across the board. They've been killing it. And the fact that they're now going over to the MCU, and I love the MCU. You all know I love the MCU, but man, does it all have to be under there? It's really too bad, and it's a shame for me. And I am a little bit pessimistic how it may turn out. So that's my general feelings on it. Now, moving into the second topic, here's the segue. We all knew that with X-Men going over to Disney, there were a couple of different ways that this whole thing could play out. Way number 1 it could play out was that they joined the MCU, although that presents some problems. Way number 2, that Disney decides to set up a brand new cinematic universe separate from the MCU, that you have X-Men and Deadpool and Fantastic Four. That was a possibility. Possibility number 3 that we talked about was maybe they go and just use these properties for their upcoming Disney streaming service. That was a possibility as well. Well, we could put those questions at ease because Bob Iger himself, in an interview the day they announced the deal, Bob Iger said that we are expanding the Marvel Cinematic Universe with X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. So Bob Iger himself, the High Lord and Emperor of Disney, Disney CEO, the top boss at Disney, he's confirmed that X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool would be joining the MCU. So that sets that part down. That settles that. The question is now done. I still don't know how I feel about that, though. On the one hand, super excited, Wolverine fighting Hulk, all that other kind of stuff, but still pessimistic, still kind of cautious, still nervous that we're still going to get the same quality of film that is different enough from the other MCU films that it feels like we have a good variety of superhero movies going on. I'm nervous. I'm not saying this was going to happen. I'm just saying I'm nervous. I'm nervous about all these titles going over to Marvel and them starting to just feel more like MCU movies. And I love the MCU movies, but we have enough of them. We have lots of them. I don't want the X-Men universe to feel like the MCU universe. So, who knows? Maybe this will be the greatest thing that's ever happened to the X universe. Maybe this will be the greatest thing that's ever happened for comic book fans. Let's just kind of wait and see. Now, one of the questions that people often bring up when I mention that I'm nervous about X-Men going back to Marvel is people say, but John, you don't say Warner Brothers has to sell off their properties. You're more than happy with Warner Brothers having all of their things. Yes, I am. But these are two different situations. Because one is tangible and real, one is theoretical. You see, Warner Brothers, it's theoretical them letting some of their characters go to other studios. Let's say Warner Brothers decides to let, I don't know, Teen Titans go to Universal and let Universal make Teen Titan movies while Warner Brothers makes all the other Justice League kinds of movies. But that's theoretical. That's not practical. That's not physical. That's not tangible. That's not real. It's a theory. With the Marvel, with X-Men and Fantastic Four being off on something else, that's tangible, that's real. We have examples of that. We have an active manifestation of that in front of us. And we see that it's working. Notwithstanding the Fantastic Four. That was not working. But Deadpool is working. The X-Men universe is working. We see that it's tangible, it's real. The Warner Brothers stuff is all theoretical. That's why there's a difference to me. That's why you hear me say I would prefer X-Men to stay under another umbrella, while I'm perfectly fine with all the Warner Brothers characters, all the DC characters being under one umbrella at Warner Brothers, because there's no practical example of anything else. So that's why I feel that way. And you may have a completely different opinion. Actually, I anticipate a lot of you guys have a completely different opinion than I do on that, which is totally fine. It's just kind of how I feel about that. But you know, one of the other, as we move on to the next thing here, one of the other big things that I've been nervous about, and I've been talking about this for months, is the notion about Deadpool. And my big fear has been, and you've heard me talk about this a lot, was that if Deadpool ever ended up back at the MCU, you know that Disney is not going to let Deadpool be a hard R. You know they're not going to let Deadpool be a hard R. And hey, look, I would have been fine if they did the first Deadpool movie not hard R and they just did like a hard edge PG-13. I would have been okay with that. But obviously the better thing to do is rated R with Deadpool. But now that you've got an R-rated Deadpool, I don't want to go back to something that's not R-rated with Deadpool. And I've said for a long time, you know Disney won't let Deadpool be rated R. Well, maybe we were worried about nothing, because Bob Iger, again, High Emperor and Lord of Disney, also came out in another interview where he was directly asked, hey, what about Deadpool? Are you going to let Deadpool stay rated R and all this kind of stuff? And Iger said something really surprising. Most of you know this by now, but what Iger said was, you know what? As long as we make sure the audience knows what they're in for, I don't see why Deadpool can't be rated R. As a matter of fact, he went beyond Deadpool. He basically said, I don't see why there can't be room for R-rated material in our world. That shocked me. Totally shocked me that he said that. Pleasantly surprised. I mean, pleasantly shocked, but shocked nonetheless. I mean, I was completely taken aback hearing Bob Iger say that, which is wonderful. Wonderful to hear. So I had some big apprehensions, some big reservations about, you know, X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four. Well, I'm happy to see Fantastic Four go back over to Marvel, but I've had some major apprehensions. I'm still nervous about them being in the MCU. Nervous about it. Let's see what happens. I have a lot of faith in Kevin Feige. But at least the other big thing I was nervous about, because I've always said, hey, you know, if X-Men had been over at Marvel, we never would have gotten an R-rated Logan. We never would have gotten Deadpool. And maybe that's probably still correct. I still don't think we ever would have gotten an R-rated Logan or an R-rated Deadpool. But since they were at Fox, and Fox did them first, and they've been successful and critically loved, now we got Bob Iger going, hey, as long as sure our audience knows what they're in for, because you don't want parents going, what the hell is this? As long as we let our audience know what they're in for, I don't see why we can't do R-rated stuff. And that is great to hear. Surprising, shocking, but great to hear nonetheless. So that's kind of exciting. I'm sure you guys have a whole lot of opinions and thoughts about this, and I'm dying to get to hear what you guys have to say about this. We'll get to that in just a little bit here. But one more topic I want to bring up here. Just as an afterthought, of course, with Star Wars The Force Awakens coming out, and I'm going to make another video about this. So apparently Star Wars, The Last Jedi, I should say, just smashed a bunch of records. It became the second biggest opening Thursday night in history. Apparently it cracked $45 million, which only puts it behind Star Wars The Force Awakens as the largest opening night in film history on a Thursday, the largest Thursday opening night in history. So as that is now coming out, it pretty much spells the end for the run of Justice League. Every film eventually ends its run. But it looks like we are coming up now on the end of the Justice League run. Now that The Force Awakens, or I keep saying The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi is going to be gobbling up all the box office there. And what an unfortunate, sad story Justice League has been. Especially, box office-wise, especially. That's what we're mainly talking about. The fact that people weren't interested in Justice League. People didn't come out to watch it. People didn't care to come out and watch Justice League. I'm still flabbergasted at that. As of right now, the total for Justice League is at $617 million. Way below, as somebody brought up on the John Campea show earlier today, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was called a bomb by everybody because it only made $708 million. Now we have Justice League. It looks like it might not even hit $650 million. And with the Last Jedi coming out now in box office, you're going to see the box office numbers for Justice League and a number of other films come to a complete screeching halt for a while. So it looks like we're coming to the end of this run. We're going to get the final numbers in from Justice League here pretty soon, but it's definitely not going to hit 700. It may not even hit 650. And again, I mean, it's just shocking to me that if you had told me 2 years ago, hey, Marvel's going to put out a movie about Doctor Strange that nobody's heard of, that's not comic book, familiar with the comic books, and it's going to make more money at the box office. More people are going to go out to watch that than they're going to go out to watch Justice League. I would have called you fucking crazy. Would have called you crazy. Would have said you're stupid beyond imagination. And yet here we are. So this story is coming to a close here pretty soon, and it's just kind of a shame. But anyway, let's move on to some other stuff. I want to go over to your live questions. Now, before we get to your live questions, allow me to shamelessly plug, of course, the one thing that keeps the lights on around here, and that is my Patreon campaign. Listen, do me a favor, guys. If you watch my shows and enjoy my content, do me a favor, head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. While you're there, you get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps the lights on around here, and what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter, like audio-only podcasts of The John Campea Show, The Weekly Hero, Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. We have a Facebook group. We just got a whole bunch of stuff that we like to do around here. So go ahead and check that out. And if you decide that being a Patreon supporter is right for you, awesome. Thank you for being one of the reasons this show can exist. And if not, that's perfectly fine. I'm just glad you're here talking movies and talking about some of our favorite stuff with us. That's the most important thing. Okay, with all that out of the way, I see we already got a bunch of live questions in here. Let's go over to the live questions. We're going to start off the live questions with this one. Tony Bush writes, over or under 65% that Silver Surfer arrives in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'll take the under on that. but I think it's a legit possibility. I think 65% is too high. If you set the number at, like, say 35%, I might have taken the over. But if you're going to give me 65 as the line, I'm going to take the under on that. But I do believe that Silver Surfer, I mean, look, Silver Surfer would fit in perfectly with the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, right? I mean, perfectly. So that's why I think it's a legit shot. I just think 65 may be a little high, so I'll take the under on 65. Let me know, what do you guys do? Would you take the over or under on that? Okay, let's go to the next one. Royce Freeman writes, for Barry going back and saving Mom to cause a ripple and affect Bruce's tragedy, Barry's mom event would have to have happened first, but isn't Bruce older? That is a great point that I've heard brought up many times about the whole Flashpoint conundrum. Because, remember, in Flashpoint, when Bruce Wayne and his dad Thomas and his mother Martha walk into that dark alley, Thomas and Martha get killed, scarring Bruce and making Bruce Wayne dies that day and becomes Batman, really, at that age. And that's that. According to the Flashpoint mythology, Flashpoint slightly alters time, and as a result, Bruce is the one, the kid, is the one who gets shot and dies. And Thomas and Martha live, and they're the ones who get scarred, and Thomas Wayne is the guy who becomes Batman. The point that Royce is bringing up was like, wait a minute, though. For that to be even logical, Barry saving his mom would have, and Barry's mother's death would have had to have happened chronologically before the Waynes go down Crime Alley. That fateful night, coming out of the show, and having them get killed. But Bruce is older than Barry. How does that work? There's a lot of different ways you can explain it. You can say that, oh, actually, no, in our incarnation, Bruce and Barry are the same age. And Barry's mother died when Barry was older than Bruce was when Bruce went into that alley with his parents. You can explain it that way. You could also say, okay, yeah, Bruce is a little bit older than Barry, but Barry's mother died at X age, which still would have been having Bruce young enough to have happen here. There's a way you could do it that way, but it is a conundrum. I got to admit, I have never heard a legit explanation as to how they work that out. And I'm sure there's some of you who are more deeply versed in the comic lore, that maybe they've given an explanation of that before, but you're right. That on its surface is a conundrum. It really is a conundrum. So I'll have to see what they do. If they do follow that storyline in Flashpoint, if they follow the storyline in Flashpoint, that Ezra goes back to save his mom and somehow that changes Bruce's childhood, that makes no sense because that history would have already happened. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. It's a great observation, Royce. All right, let's move on to the next one. Ben Rayner writes, could a smaller story-based Flashpoint movie, kind of like what they did with it on the Flash show work, maybe on like a Deadpool-sized budget? I don't know how you're going to do that. I mean, look, it all depends. If you want to go with a Flashpoint kind of the way they did it on the TV show, which is a much more scaled-down Flashpoint, you could. If you want to make Flashpoint, and if you're Warner Brothers and you want to make Flashpoint a big tentpole event that changes the DCEU forever, and you want to have Atlanteans and Amazons and a war and a Batman and a blah, you want to do all that? I don't see how you do it for a Deadpool-sized budget. If you want to pursue like the more closer to the actual story of Flashpoint, and you want to talk in huge battle scenes, because look, people going to watch Flashpoint, they want to see an army of Amazons and an army of Atlanteans. That's what they want to see. It's difficult to do it without that. I think it would disappoint a lot of people if they did. So I have a feeling it would probably be very difficult for them to do it on like a Deadpool-sized budget or to make a smaller scale movie. I think they're probably going to want to go pretty big and pretty tentpole. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll go the other way, which would be great. But I don't think that's the way they seem to be going with their stuff. Interesting question, though. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one comes to us from Mary. And Mary writes, hi, longtime viewer from the UK. Well, thank you so much, Mary. Infinity War comes out a week early for us and most of the European Union. Do you think spoilers of who dies leaking to US could affect the box office? No. I don't. It won't affect the box office. It'll piss a lot of people off. There'll definitely be a lot of people very upset and very angry about spoilers coming out. But I really don't think it's going to affect the box office. Anybody who's excited about seeing Avengers Infinity War is going to go see Avengers Infinity War. They're not going to watch Infinity War so they can find out who dies. They're going to watch Infinity War so they can watch the story of Infinity War. That's what they're going to go see. So I think even though spoilers are going to come out, and they'll definitely come out, I still think it's not going to affect the box office at all. What could affect the box office is if it opens a week early in the EU and all the audiences hate it and the reviews are bad. That could hurt the box office, but some spoilers coming out I don't think would affect the box office that much, to be honest with you, Mary. Thanks a lot for bringing that up. All right, Ben Rayner also writes again, if they bring Magneto into the MCU, would they make him Wanda's Scarlet Witch's father? See, that's a problem. Because they've already explained that Wanda and her deceased brother are not mutants. They got their powers from the Infinity Stone. They're not mutants. So I really don't know how they'll navigate that, to be honest. I really don't. That is a huge question. What do you do with Magneto? Do you have him be in any relation to Wanda? I've got a feeling they just won't. I have a feeling they won't address Wanda being Magneto's daughter. I think they'll just have a Magneto character and have him have no association with them. If they can come up with a way to do it, great. Awesome. But I have a feeling it might just be easier for them to go, you know what? A lot of the average movie-going audience has no concept that Magneto has children. So let's not worry about it. And I have a feeling that might be one way they decide to go. But if they can come up with a good way to do it, I'm all for it. Eric not our Gaiocomo writes, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, man. Hi, John. Do you think DC would ever go all out and do an R-rated film adaptation of The Batman Who Laughs? Hey, look, right now, Warner Brothers and DC are in such a shambles right now. They are doing a major upheaval. That was covered in the news last week. A major upheaval is coming to that. The head of the DC Productions has been fired. Jeff Johns is apparently being demoted just to being a consultant. And apparently they're making a whole bunch of other moves over there. Things over there right now are in such a mess. It's hard to imagine what they will or won't do. So until we let the dust settle from the Justice League fallout, to see just what kind of position Warner Brothers settles in, who's going to be leading the DC film division, is DC as a film division going to be absorbed into the main building, into the main arm of Warner Brothers instead? Will Kevin Tsujihara take a more direct oversight role on it? I mean, until we know the answer to all those questions, it's really rather impossible to speculate. I will say this. With Warner Brothers struggling at the box office, they still haven't had a single film crack the $1 billion mark. As a matter of fact, they haven't had anything come close to cracking the $1 billion mark. Whereas I think the MCU has 4 or 5 films that have cracked the $1 billion mark. I don't think making something rated R is going to be all that appealing to them right now. So again, that could change depending on what type of a new structure and a new vision they set for it, and we're going to have to wait probably a few months to find out what that is. But maybe then that picture will become a little bit clearer. Thanks a lot for the question, Eric. Angel Chang writes, where'd Angel go? I lost Angel. Where'd Angel Chang go? There he is. Angel Chang writes, could we potentially get some X-Men with Spider-Man? I mean, sure. Absolutely. Look, once they bring the X-Men into the MCU, and I have a feeling that's not going to happen very quickly. It'll happen eventually, but I don't think they're going to move too fast on that. But once we have the X-Men in the MCU, there's nothing stopping them from crossing over with Spider-Man, if that's what they want to do. And remember, once you have X-Men, now you have a world with mutants. And there are tens of thousands of mutants in the world. So really, there's no reason not to have Spider-Man in a Spider-Man standalone film having a couple of mutants there as well. I mean, it will become pretty commonplace, I think. So let's keep our eye on that. But it's a very good point. Just Plain Steve writes, does Deadpool need a reboot for the MCU? There isn't anything in the first Deadpool movie that really cements it as a part of Fox's X universe. Look, everything at Fox, you know, I say this all the time. Everything at Fox is continuity, schmontinuity. They have never cared about continuity at Fox. They do not care. So it doesn't really matter. However, Deadpool in its current incarnation has worked really well when it easily could have gone south. If you reboot Deadpool with a new Deadpool who's not Ryan Reynolds and all that kind of stuff, you are now taking the chance again. You're re-rolling the dice, and this time it may not come up sevens. It may come up snake eyes instead. So they have a Deadpool in place. That is working. You got your Merc with the mouth, and there's no reason to reboot it. I mean, really, because everything with Fox is continuity, schmontinuity. Continuity is completely unimportant. What is important is you've got your character there. People love this character. They love his origin story. There's no need to reboot it. You can easily pick that up and bring it into the MCU. How you explain mutants in the MCU when they haven't even mentioned them before, that's going to be the more tricky part. But I really don't see a need to reboot them at all. So I don't think they will. All right, next one. Royce Freeman is writing, could Punisher ever meet Spider-Man in the MCU? Well, that all depends. That all depends. Because right now it seems like Disney is quite happy to keep their Netflix stuff very separate. That's why you don't hear any reference of anything on either of them. I mean, really, that's why if you watch this this season of Punisher, like there is no reference to the MCU whatsoever. They keep it they seem to keep their Netflix stuff incredibly separate. You're not going to see Daredevil pop up in Avengers. You're not going to see Jessica Jones. You're not going to see Punisher, blah, blah, blah. So, well, I think there's no problem with like Spider-Man crossing over with Deadpool. I think it's much less likely that we'll see Spider-Man cross over with Punisher because right now they seem very happy to be keeping those things completely separate. So until that changes, and maybe it'll change sometime, but until that changes, I wouldn't hold my breath seeing Spider-Man and the Punisher meeting anytime soon. Sean Keefe writes, do you think the movie-going audience is ready for a new Fantastic Four movie? With 3 poor movies in a row, I have doubts they'll go for a new one. I think they will. Look, this is why I've been saying that Warner Brothers should reboot, because the audience is totally good with reboots. We've seen them reboot Batman, and it's worked. We've seen them reboot Spider-Man several times, and it's worked. We've seen them reboot Hulk, and it works. The only reboot that hasn't worked so far is Fantastic Four. So give them another shot. And I honestly think that they will be more than happy to come back and watch a good Fantastic Four movie. Would you put it out this year? No. Do you put it out in 2019? Probably not. But once you get into 2020, I think there's enough separation there that the general movie-going audience right now is acclimated to the notion of reboots. And I think they will be perfectly fine with a reboot. I really do. I think the audience will be fine with it, which is why I think the Warner Brothers should reboot and get started and build on a foundation of strength instead of building on a foundation of films that are completely divisive amongst the fans, that the critics completely hate, and now that culminated in a Justice League that completely disappointed at the box office. That's why they need to reboot, and those are the reasons why I do think Fantastic Four can reboot, and they'll be perfectly fine. Unless they make a bad movie, and then they're in trouble, but that's for a totally different reason. All right, let's move on to the next one here. John K. writes, it's not hero-related. In that case, then, John, I'm going to take a skip on this. This is the Weekly Hero. This isn't Star Wars Talk Tuesday, so I'm going to jump over your question. I appreciate you sending it in, but this is Weekly Hero. We're here to talk about comic book movies. All right, next question comes to us from Alexander Olafson, who writes, hey, John, love your WoW shirt. Yeah, this is a World of Warcraft. Actually, if I can turn around, you get a glimpse of that. I love your WoW shirt. Thank you so much. Kevin Feige got a lot more to do now with all these new characters. Yes, he does. Kevin Feige, he's got a full plate, man. He's got a big cracking job ahead of him that he needs to take care of, because now this world of the MCU has just suddenly got a whole lot more complex and a whole lot more complicated. So we'll just have to see what he does with this moving forward. But you're right. It's just become a lot bigger of a job. Next one, Eric DeRigi writes, Star Wars question. Again, guys, not taking Star Wars questions. This is Weekly Hero, so I'm not taking Star Wars questions. Micah Vivanayagam. Sorry, man, I know I'm butchering your name. Hey, John, call me Micah. Okay, Micah T. That makes it much easier for me. Thank you, Micah T. After last time, thoughts on RDJ's Tony Stark retiring and becoming the recruiter/financer of the Avengers for Phase 4 and beyond. Sort of like a Nick Fury role. Well, there's no need for that. If you're going to have Robert Downey Jr. there, make him Iron Man. It's not like he actually does any of the action scenes. The action scenes are all CGI. So it's not like, oh, Robert's getting a little bit too old to do all those flying action scenes. He doesn't do the flying action scenes. That's CGI. So for me, at least from my point of view, and maybe you guys have a different point of view, which is great. My point of view on this is that if you're going to have Robert Downey Jr. there anyway, just make him Iron Man. That's what people want to see. So if you're going to have him there, make him Iron Man. It's not like he can't do the action because he doesn't do the action anyway as it is. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, Micah T, and thank you for allowing me to call you Micah T, so I don't have to stumble and struggle with your last name like I always do with everybody's names. Let's see here. Eric DeRigi writes, always watch your show daily. Keep it up. Oh, thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate that. Philip Michael writes, do you think we'll ever see a Guardians of the Galaxy spinoff starring Stallone's group of Ravagers? Could be cool, like the Expendables in space. Keep up the good work. I'm not really sure what James Gunn has in mind for Guardians of the Galaxy and the Ravagers. The end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 certainly does seem to suggest that they're going to do more with that moving forward, because you have Stallone making this big speech and he's bringing a new team of people together. So, you know what? No, it's not crazy to think that we're going to see them in the next movie. How central they'll be, or whether they get a spin-off, I doubt. I doubt we're going to see a spin-off of that, because that's just going a little bit too far, I think. But I do think we'll probably see them in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. If you gave me an over-under number of 51% of Stallone's new group showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I'm going to take the over. I'll take the over on that. Okay, thanks a lot, Philip. The next one comes to us from Tony Bush. And Tony Bush writes, do you think part of the Disney-Fox deal was that certain Fox properties had to remain rated R, similar to George Lucas making stipulations? Nope. Nope. Because Fox doesn't give two squirts of piss what Disney does with them now. Makes no difference to them what Disney does with them now. George Lucas is different. That was his property. That was his dynasty. That was his legacy. This is a totally different thing. This is just a business thing. Fox could care less. Fox doesn't care one bit if Marvel keeps Deadpool rated R or makes Deadpool a G-rated kids movie. Look, colors. Look, kids. The color of my suit is red. Can you say red? Red. Yay. Fox doesn't care if they do that at all. No. So no, I have no doubt that none of those stipulations were in that agreement, because it just, with Lucas, it's a different thing. That was his lifelong legacy. So that's changed now. But with Fox, nah, I don't see that has anything to do with it. Joel321 says, will Dark Phoenix be reworked as last X-Men film? Impossible to tell. First of all, let's keep this in mind. This is very important to know. The Dark Phoenix is done shooting. They're done shooting it. They're now heavy into post-production, and maybe they'll do some reshoots, but the movie's shot. They're doing post-production, and they're heading towards releasing the film. So I don't think you're going to want to see Disney wanting to put up a bunch more money to retool the movie on like last-minute notice and then try to rush it towards its finish. We saw what happened with that with Justice League. I don't think Marvel is looking to do that. Plus, again, Marvel knows, like, if they want to reboot the X-Men universe, they don't have to retool it as a last X-Men movie. You just reboot it. They didn't need to do Amazing Spider-Man 2 as the last Amazing Spider-Man so we know we're heading into something new. Nah, they just killed it and then just relaunched with Tom Holland and everybody was happy. So, and we don't even know if Disney wants to reboot X-Men yet. If I had to put money on it, I'd put $5 on it that they are going to reboot it, but we don't know that yet. So, and even if they did want to reboot it, there's no need to spend millions of more dollars to retool the existing movie just so you can say it's the last movie, because you can just reboot it cold and everybody will be fine with it. They did it with Batman. They did it again with Hulk. They did it again with Spider-Man. So there's no need to do it that way. So that's just how I see it at any rate. Let's see. KW Garrett 83 writes, Superman is so powerful that his Justice League comrades aren't necessary, and non-Kryptonian villains don't stand a chance. Doesn't this seem like a story problem? Well, that's not true at all. Like, if you watch, like, is Superman the most powerful of them all? Yes. But if you watch, say, Justice League, he could not have done that alone. He wouldn't have been able to save all those people and deal with all the parademons and deal with Steppenwolf all at the same time. Is he clearly the number one hitter? Yes, he is. But that doesn't mean he can do it alone. And I don't think Superman could have accomplished what they did in Justice League alone. Could Justice League have done it without him? Nope, clearly not. They would have gotten wiped by Steppenwolf. But with him, yes. And did he need their help? Yes. So I don't see it the way you do on that. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. I think he needed the Justice League and the rest of his teammates for that movie in particular, in this case, at any rate. All right, Tony Bush is writing, I'm thinking they Marvel will say the mutant gene is what protected Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver as test subjects. Again, that doesn't make any sense because there are no mutants in the world. We've never heard a reference to mutants. Remember, in the world of the X-Men, I'm just going to reset this. In the world of the X-Men, the mutant problem is the #1 political issue in the world. That is what the world struggles with, is what to do about mutants. You can't just start the keep going to the MCU and pretend like the mutant issue has been there all along. That's kind of sticking their heads in the sand, I think. So really, I don't see that as a solution. I'm not saying there isn't a solution. There very well could be a solution, but I don't think that is the solution whatsoever because it ignores the much bigger problem. So once they address this, they have to address the big problem, then worry about the little details. Trying to find answers to little details like, well, how do they deal with it with Scarlet Witch? That's trying to address the small detail without addressing the big detail first. And that's what has to happen in that order. That's the way I see it at any rate. All right. Next one comes to us from Shreyas Shirvavstav, who writes, firstly, it's embarrassing to me that Justice League won't top Thor 2 at the box office. Yeah, you're telling me. Just wanted to know your thoughts on top 50 superhero movie rankings that Collider is doing. I don't care. I haven't watched them. I do not know what they're doing over there with that. Whatever they're doing, I'm sure it's great, but I have no idea and I haven't been paying attention to it, so I can't really give an intelligent answer on that. Mr. DC Comics just puts in a super chat. Thank you. Same as Mario Boyd just sent in a super chat. Thank you so much. Lance Pro 85 writes, Mabuhay, one of the turn-offs I've had with the current X-Men was a quote from an exec saying Wolverine isn't 5'3" because it was a commercial hindrance to have a male sex symbol that's smaller than the female leads. Well, he's not wrong. He isn't. Is he wrong? Is he incorrect in that? He's not. He's correct in saying that, and that's their thing. Now, could they have given us a 5'3" Wolverine and still had it work? Absolutely, they could have. But is he being correct that it is perceptually, from a marketing point of view, that it's a challenge to have a lead hero that's that diminutive in size? Yeah, that's an issue. That is a problem. It is. He's right. He's not wrong about that. And are any of us complaining about the Wolverine that Hugh Jackman gave us? No. So it worked out just fine. Look, I have no problem at all if they go to now a 5'3", 5'4", hell, a 5'5" Wolverine. I got no problem. That's great. Super. But if they come back and give us a new Wolverine who's 6'5", I also have no problem with that. I really don't care. The vast majority of the audience now thinks, when they think of Wolverine, they're not comic fans. You go to the average person in the street and say, do you think Wolverine's closer to 6 feet tall or closer to 5 feet tall? They're all going to say 6 feet tall. Most people in the world have no idea that in the comic books, Wolverine's supposed to be that short. They have no idea. So what do you do then if you're the filmmakers? Do you aim it towards the vast majority of the audience that already think of Wolverine as a 6-foot+ guy? Or do you aim it towards the very tiny minority who are looking for Wolverine to be that short? I mean, obviously, from a business point of view, you point it towards the wider audience. That's what you do. So again, I have no problem if they go with a shorter Wolverine now, but I also have no problem if they go with a taller one. So again, what he said is bothersome. I'm not disagreeing with you. It is bothersome. But we also have to remind ourselves that what he said is actually factually correct. He's not wrong when he says that. That's just part of the stupid reality of having to deal with this stuff, I guess. Thanks a lot for the question, Lance Pro 85. I appreciate that. Oliver Mahuin writes, will Ryan Reynolds still be a producer of the Deadpool films? I think you mean... I don't think you mean Daredevil, so I'm going to assume you mean Deadpool. I believe so. I don't see any reason why Fox would change it up. It is a formula that is working. And hell, if Deadpool 2 comes out and it's anywhere even near as good as the first Deadpool, Marvel won't want to mess with that. They'll want to keep him on as a producer. They know how popular Ryan Reynolds is as Deadpool. And he is the producer of it. He was also the guiding creative force of the movie. So, I mean, he's the one who hired the writers. He's the one who worked with them to get the story they wanted. They're not going to want to mess with that. So I have no doubt that Ryan Reynolds will still be... I mean, hey, anything's possible. Maybe they fire him tomorrow, for all I know. My gut is that I don't see any reality in which they don't try to keep him on. And I'm sure they will. All right. Let's move on here. Alan Gonzalez writes... I think they will just say Charles Xavier was blocking the knowledge of mutants from the non-mutants. LOL, just trying to come up with more ideas. Alan, don't laugh, man. You are not the first person I've heard say that. There have been a number of people I've seen online putting that forward as a possibility. Well, what if Charles Xavier, who is like one of the most powerful mutant minds in the world, just blocked the knowledge of mutants from every living soul on the planet? It sounds dumb, but when you stop and ponder it, it's not that dumb. I mean, look, how many times in movies have we seen the heroes uncover a secret that changes the world? Like, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, I'm not saying this is what I think they're going to do. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's what they're going to do. But here's why it's not that crazy. For them to have a movie where some hero stumbles across this deep secret, that there are these mutations of human beings known as mutants that are living in the world and have been for the past 20 or 30 years. And there's a mega powerful mutant who's just been blocking their knowledge, humanity's knowledge of mutants this whole time. That's a plot. I mean, right there you have not just a point, you have a plot for a movie that you could do. Now, it doesn't explain anything like about, well, are you saying no mutants broke laws, nobody exhibited powers in the public, nobody did... Okay, that becomes a problem, yes. But again, I'm just saying, I don't think that's what they're going to do, but it's not that far-fetched either. So don't laugh at yourself for mentioning that, because you're not the only one. Okay, let's see. Jack Hudson writes, my teacher spoiled The Last Jedi for my class. Well, your teacher's a jerk. Oliver Mahuin writes, I meant Deadpool movie. Sorry, not DD. Great work. Thank you so much, Olivier. I appreciate that, and I figured you meant Deadpool. No worries. Let's see. Camelio10 writes, John, please explain The Last Jedi's... Okay, look, I've got a bunch of you bringing this up, so let me just address this quick. And I put this up on social media. This is the only time I'll take this, because 3 or 4 of you have asked. It's simple. Rotten Tomatoes audience scores mean nothing. Do you know what the audience score for The Last Jedi is on IMDb right now? Do you know what it is? It's 81%. So IMDb's audience score for The Last Jedi is 81%. Rotten Tomatoes audience score is 57%. Which should you believe? Neither. I said this about Justice League. I'll say it about The Last Jedi. Neither. Because IMDb's audience scores and Rotten Tomatoes audience scores both allow people who have never seen the movie to vote and vote multiple times. So it's irrelevant. The only audience score that is legitimate, the only one that you should ever pay attention to as far as an audience score goes, is CinemaScore. That is the only one you should pay attention to. Because CinemaScore is actually at the theaters talking and interviewing people and surveying people as they come out of the movie. That guarantees they only vote once, and that guarantees it's actually people who have actually seen the movie. So people are saying, oh, it's got this terrible audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, but it's got this awesome audience score on IMDb. Which one do we believe? Neither. Throw them both away. Wait till the CinemaScore comes out. I said that with Justice League. I'll say that for every movie. It's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant. Any system that takes votes from people who haven't seen the movie and lets people vote multiple times, you need to throw that out immediately. Just wait and see. It is interesting. Why is there such a difference between the IMDb score and the Rotten Tomatoes score? I don't know. That just goes to the point that we shouldn't pay attention to either of them. Just wait for the CinemaScore. And that goes for every comic book movie as well. All right. Let's see here. Justin J. Wood writes, They can easily introduce mutants just like they did in the original X-Men film. Make the movies Catalyst the first public showing of their abilities. Well, but you're wrong. Like the first X-Men film, the X-Men have already been around. Mutants have already been around. That movie starts with public hearings about the mutant problem. That's how X-Men starts. Well, it really goes back to World War II with, with a young Magneto in a German concentration camp. If you want to go back to World War II, that's fine. But you can't just say, oh, now there are mutants. It doesn't work. You see what I'm saying, man? Narratively, it doesn't work. Because X-Men started off with the world already being aware of the mutant problem. That's how the first movie starts. So it's a little bit more complex than people want to admit that it is. Alexander Ignet writes, I think they'll just rebrand Inhumans as mutants. I mean, that is the funny thing, right? The whole reason Marvel started investing in Inhumans is because they didn't have the mutants. So Inhumans were the new mutants, and then Inhumans sucked. And it was total garbage. And so now we've got the mutants back. So I don't think they'll just rebrand the Inhumans as mutants. I think they'll do something completely new with it. I think that's the way I think they'll go. I could be wrong, though. Sam Demner puts in a super chat. Thank you. By the way, guys, if you haven't sent in a super chat yet, please do not, because I want to finish these ones off, and then I want to take some Twitter questions from you guys before we wrap this thing up. Let's see. Chris Beckham writes, I've seen The Last Jedi twice now, and I'm conflicted on how Luke was... Okay, again, sorry, Chris, I'm not taking Star Wars questions. This is Weekly Hero. Andy A. Hernandez writes, X-Men from a different planet make Avengers 1 the Chitauri. Let's see, X-Men from a different planet make Avengers 1 the Chitauri. That's one way you could approach it. I don't think that's how I would do it myself, but that is certainly one approach. I mean, you're thinking outside of the box, and that's good. And it's going to take some outside the box thinking to kind of reconcile these two different worlds coming together and to see how they do it. Again, I'm not saying you're suggesting not the way I would see it or the way I would do it, but at least you're thinking kind of in the right way about it. So that's cool to see. Mr. DC Comics writes, will we see 90s X-Men costumes, or will they stay with the black ones? I don't really want to see the 90s X-Men costumes, to be honest. I think in live action they would look ridiculous. Captain America's outfit looks great in live action. Thor's costume looks great in live action. I'm not big on the look of Vision, to be honest with you. I wish they changed the look of Vision, but a lot of the X-Men ones I just think would look silly. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I mean, Rogue would look fine. Wolverine, I think, would look ridiculous in yellow spandex. But, hey, a lot of people have different opinions about that. A lot of people would love to see the classic animation style, 90s style costumes in live action. A lot of people would love to see that. I'm just not one of them. That's all. All right, thanks for the question, man. A99 Barnsey writes, Hydra experiment on Scarlet Witch caused her change reality, her power, to one without mutants like House of M. Only few mutants remaining. Avengers 4 undoes this. Again, that doesn't quite work narratively for me. But again, you're thinking the way the folks at Marvel are going to need to be thinking, which is outside the box, think multidimensionally, think at different ways you can make this work and reconcile this stuff. So you're thinking the right way. I don't think you've come to the solution myself, but you're on the right thought process. Mark Windus writes, perhaps after Infinity War and Avengers 4, Thanos alters reality and brings in the mutant phenomena. Could, again, I don't feel good about it. I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but I've changed the world. You're not just changing the world, you're changing all of history, because the X-Men and Xavier has to have been around for a long time to form the X-Men and all this kind of stuff, and I just don't know that's the right way to do it. And then again, like, I'm sitting here saying, I don't think that's the right way to do it, I don't think that's the right way to do it, but I have no options either. Like, I don't have a solution. So I'm the worst type of person, saying these solutions don't work without offering a solution of myself. I am the worst kind of person. I acknowledge that right now. Sorry about that. Let's see. San Demner writes, hey, John, do you think X-Men and MCU will work together in the same universe? That's what it sounds like they're going to do. It sounds like that's the way they're doing. After all, like we heard Bob Iger say, we're going to expand the Marvel Cinematic Universe with X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. So that could be the way they're going. Mr. Johnny writes, hey, John, thank you for your work and efforts. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for the MCU Fantastic Phase 4. Oh, And is green your favorite color? No, my favorite color is actually blue. Blue is my favorite color of my eyes. I have beautiful baby blue eyes. Blue is actually my favorite color. And yep, Fantastic Phase 4. You've just given Disney the perfect marketing campaign for Phase 4, man. Marvel Cinematic Universe, Fantastic Phase 4. You just did it. I hope you get some royalty checks for that. Angel Chang writes, maybe Stan Lee as a watcher explains mutants' possibility, I suppose. Memes are cool, sends in a super chat. Thank you. And this is the last super chat I'm taking. John De Silva writes in, if the 3 finished X-Men films in 2018 are huge hits, will this influence Disney's plans moving forward? Well, here's the problem. Disney has to start making their plans now. Disney needs to start formulating what their plan is now. They can't wait for 9 months before they even start making plans. But you never know. You never know how things will get influenced and change the way they decide to approach things. We'll have to wait and see. The big problem, though, is you can't sit around and wait for these movies to come out in theaters because you have to start making your plans now. Because once you start making your plans, you're a couple of years removed from putting something in theater, so you've got to start the ball moving. So, who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that all kind of transpires itself. All right. Thank you to everybody who sent in super chats. Now, I want to go over to Twitter and take some of your guys' thoughts via Twitter. I still got like 10 minutes left. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Write to me on Twitter. Simply jump on Twitter and tweet to me at John Campea. Fire in that tweet, and maybe you will see your tweet pop up here on the bottom of my screen. So give me a second here to get my Twitter message feed laid out here and ready to go. Let's see here. The first tweet today... oh, nobody sent one in yet. Okay, I understand. There's a bit of a delay between when I say it and when it actually pops up on your screen. So let me just go back to that whole thing again about 2018 as you guys fire in your tweets. The thing about the movies coming out, I think Disney has already 100% decided what they want to do with X-Men and with Deadpool and with Fantastic Four. No, I don't think they've probably reached any final decisions. Okay, that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm not saying Disney already knows what they want to do. All I'm saying, though, is that if you're Disney and now you got these properties back, what they can't afford to do is wait for 9, 10 months for all 3 of these movies come out, evaluate how they did, and then start drawing up your plans. What they need to do is start figuring this stuff out now. Now, while making plans, do you leave room in your plans for, okay, here's our plan, but if Dark Phoenix is a hit, we skew this way. If Dark Phoenix is a bomb, we skew this way. Here's our plan. If Deadpool is a bigger hit than before, here's our overall plan, but we'll lean it more towards this way if it's a big hit. If it's a big bomb, we'll lean it more towards that way. So you start making your plans and you build into your plans some contingencies depending on the success or failure of the films that are coming out in 2018. So do I think the films of 2018 will dictate what happens moving forward? No. Will they influence? I think influence is probably the right word. I think we will see some influence there in that regard. Okay, now let's jump over to Twitter and I'll take some tweets here. Let's see. We will start with this one. And this one comes to us from Super Bobo Mario, who writes, John, the multiverse was introduced with Doctor Strange. Maybe he can just call them for help. Well, again, I don't know if that's a concept that was introduced, but just in a very theoretical way. I don't know if they want to get into it. I don't know. I'm not saying they do. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know that the average movie-going audience, like my mom, is going to watch that and take it well. I just don't know. I don't know if the multi-universe aspect is the way you do it. Again, I'm the worst kind of person because I'm just sitting here poo-pooing on everybody's idea about the way to do it when I'm not offering a solution myself. Maybe I can come up with something. But again, I don't know that the multiverse way of approaching it is the way to do it. But who knows? Maybe they come up with a great way to do it just the way you're saying it and it works perfectly. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see. This one comes to us from Dennis K. 1979, who writes, John, with Disney getting the Fox heroes, we will probably see a few less superhero movies each year, don't you think? And unfortunately, yes. I do think one of the negative repercussions of this whole deal is that we are ultimately going to start seeing less superhero movies per year, which sucks to me. I would love to go see a new superhero movie every month. Just like I love to watch a new episode of Lucifer every single week, I'd love to be able to once a month go and see a new superhero movie. That would be awesome, but I believe this is going to hurt that and hinder the possibilities of that. Let's see. This one comes to us from Left Brain 22. John, would you like to see a Spidey Pool movie in the MCU? Nah, that doesn't interest me. I mean, there are certain things that work great in the comics that wouldn't necessarily translate well into the big screen. That is something that, to me, would not work all that well. Let's see. Let's just take one or two more here. Let's see. This one. Oh, I lost it. Okay. Oh, here we go. This one comes to us from Nerdsheet, who writes, John, no one has mentioned Channing Tatum as Gambit. What's happening with that movie? Actually, we talked about that on the John Campea show earlier today. We talked about it. Here's the thing. The Gambit and the James Franco Multiple Man movie projects seem to be in one corner. In the other corner, you have these 3 upcoming movies that are already shot. Dark Phoenix, New Mutants, Deadpool. These 3 films in this corner are not going to be affected at all. However, I think there's a pretty good chance that Disney puts the kibosh on the Gambit movie and puts a kibosh on the James Franco Multiple Man movie. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if I had to bet $1, not $10, not $20, not $100, but if I had to bet $1 on what will happen with that Gambit film and James Franco's Multiple Man film, I think they both get killed. I think they both get cut and taken off the schedule. That's what I think will happen. I kind of hope not, because I'm one of the few people out there who I'm actually kind of really interested in seeing Gambit played by Channing Tatum. I think he can do a good job in the movie. But I'm starting to feel like more and more the tea leaves are pointing to the fact that that may not happen. And we'll just have to wait and see if that's actually what transpires. All right, let's move on to the next one here. This one comes to us from Arrow CW Flash, who writes, John, what if they had the classic Wolverine costume, but in the style similar to the Days of Future Past, when they're seen if you... Oh, well, I'd have to see a design. I mean, now we're talking theoretical and asking me to paint a picture in my head, and it's tough to do that. I would have to see the design and to really kind of get what it is they're saying. And, oh my God, there's so many tweets coming in. Sorry, guys, I'm only going to be able to get to a couple more. Let's see. This one comes to us from I Am Sandeep SD, writes, John, if Disney changes Wolverine because Hugh Jackman won't return, do they need to change the whole rest of the cast? Not necessarily. Remember, we've seen multiple people play Sabretooth. We've seen multiple people play, what's the name of the character in Wolverine? Or in Logan? Caliban. We've seen multiple people play Caliban. We've seen multiple people play Angel. We've seen a lot of different variations of different characters. I don't think if they change one, they have to change them all. I think they might want to change them all anyway, but just because they have to change one, I don't think automatically means they have to change them all. And here we go. Last question of the day, guys. This one comes to us from James Dunn N.I., who writes, John, what do you think Marvel's plans are for Inhumans? To get as far away from them as humanly possible. To try to hop in the shower and scrub the stench of Inhumans off them. I even think that, after this season of Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is done, I think you'll see them move more and more away from Inhumans in their storyline. That was such a bomb. Such a terrible, terrible, destructive, terrible, awful thing, that Inhumans show. That was just brutal. So I don't think they have any plans for Inhumans right now. I could be wrong. They might have a great redemption story for the Inhumans. Maybe. But I think right now they're just going to go, oh, okay, that didn't work. Let's move on and focus on the things that are working, like Deadpool. So maybe that's what's going to happen there. All right, guys, that will do it for this week's installment of the Weekly Hero, recapping and talking and going over all the great things that have happened in the world of comic book movies over the past week. Thank you so much, guys, for participating in this with me, sharing your thoughts and opinions about all this kind of stuff. Now, listen, guys, we have crossed the 100,000 subscriber mark on this channel, but we got room for a lot more. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button. Also, if you're here, click the thumbs up button. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember, as always, we're all on the same team. We all love comic book movies. So even though we have differences of opinion, that's the fun thing. But let's just treat each other knowing that we're all on the same side ultimately, and we are fellow film fans together. And also, guys, don't forget, follow me on social media. Just jump on Twitter. Make sure you follow me at John Campea. I do a whole bunch of tweeting. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.